Previously on Planet Slizer.
Oh no!
And now the conclusion.
Hey folks, welcome back. I'm your host, R.R. Slugger, and last time we were together, we took a look at the original 8 Throwbots. They were pretty cool, huh? Well, they're dead. Buy these new ones. On New Year's Eve, a mysterious meteor hits the Throwbots' planet. The powerful collision creates a giant crater, and out of the crater climb 4 fantastic new Throwbots. Can anyone or anything stop them? Following the first wave in 1999, the LEGO Group released a second wave the following year, consisting of 4 new designs. Today we're going to be looking at all of the newcomers, as well as any alternate or combiner models they have. Firstly, while the Slugometer proved useful in our first outing surrounding the theme, this time we're going without. Truthfully, the reason as to why is because I feel all 4 of these new sets are head and shoulders above the originals. They're all triple slug outings, no doubt, and all this would do is bump the previous models down a peg each. There also really isn't much a point comparing the quartet against each other, so I think we can just proceed with the understanding that what we're looking at today is the cream of the crop when it comes to Throwbots. Normally, we'd proceed in the order of set number, but I want to save the biggest for last, so let's instead begin with 8521 Flare. Sporting a striking black and orange color scheme, Flare soars through the skies of planet Slizer, or at least what's left of it. Indeed, it seems that meteor pulled a Praxis and destroyed half the planet.
Don't tell me that was any meteor shower.
Negative, sir. Subspace shockwave originated at bearing 323 Mark 75.
On screen. Magnify.
Computer enhancement.
It's Planet Slizer!
What's left of it, sir?
Captain, I'm getting a message.
Let's have it.
We come in pods with belt loop clips, collecting discs with 7 dips. We are the Throwbots. We are the Throwbots. We are the Throwbots. We are the Throwbots.
Do we report this, sir?
Are you kidding?
Flare can often be seen flying above the wreckage of the old world, even as meteor fragments continue to rain down. I get the distinct impression that he simply revels in the chaos, given the fire in his eyes. Wow, the Y2K era of LEGO was sure hardcore. As a toy, Flare brings to us some of the best in Slizer engineering. His throwing disc tail can be positioned in a multitude of ways, allowing him to launch from nearly any angle. In addition, its connection to the gear system allows it to serve a secondary purpose, winding the mechanism at light speed compared to his peers. This allows Flare to go from fight to flight in a flash. Now, every single Throwbot has at least one piece exclusive to their set, so talking about them all would bloat any video on the subject. However, in this case, I'll make a special exception. These set-exclusive orange Technic panel wings add so much to the aesthetic here, and I think Technic as a system lost a significant amount of its cool factor when it retired these molds 4 years later. Interestingly, the second wave of Throwbots doesn't feature the same level of collectability as the original 8 when it comes to the discs. Each set simply came with 2 discs, and that's that. Flare's discs were printed on a glow-in-the-dark plastic and feature artwork showing the meteor and its aftermath. Great stuff, though it does leave his pod feeling comparatively empty. Our next Throwbot is 8522 Spark. After Electro passed the proverbial baton of purple and black, Spark was able to build upon his predecessor's design in many other ways as well. Utilizing his energy zapper, Spark is able to drain the other Throwbots of their essence in battle, making for a formidable opponent. As a construction figure, Spark isn't reinventing the wheel. He is, however, streamlining and iterating upon previous designs whilst retaining their strengths. He may be the least notable of the newcomers, but I'd still place him above any of the original 8. Strangely enough, now all these years later, Spark has become one of the rarest Throwbots on the aftermarket. Whether this is a result of region exclusivity or a limited production run, it's hard to tell. But anecdotally, it's been the experience of many collectors I've talked to that getting their hands on Spark proved difficult. Other than its relative rarity, I think my only other gripe with the set itself is that Spark's pod is identical to that of Electro's. I can understand the manufacturing reasons to want to do so when given the color scheme opportunities, but it does make it difficult to discern the two from a pile in my collection. Like Flare, his discs are also printed on glow-in-the-dark plastic, and feature unique artwork. Here we can see the meteor impacting planet Slizer, and Spark striding through a valley of fire. Notably, if we combine these discs with Flares, we can see that they arrange into a 2, 3, 4, 5 pip pattern. I wonder where 6 and 7 might be. Well, perhaps we'll find our answer with an 8523 Blaster. This heavy bruiser is busting all previous conventions when it comes to Throwbot design. Uncontainable within a standard pod, Blaster has over double the part count of his peers, and stands as one of the most ambitious figures Construction would see for a long time. Technic's first Titan-class figure? I think so. Wielding a mighty staff in one hand, his other accessory could be seen as a shield, or perhaps an energy zapper similar to Spark's. These same Technic wing panels are used to great effect to provide shaping to the shoulders, lending to his heavy-set appearance. The printed faceplate is of particular note here, depicting what looks to be a mashup of Judge and Amazon from the previous wave. Perhaps they were destroyed and fused together in the explosion. Or perhaps it was a rush design job by LEGO. We do, after all, see some shenanigans using Onyx's face print from Robo-Riders in some promotional art, so who's to say? This prototype face print can even be seen represented on the disc that Blaster keeps close to his chest. Even though the slivered eyes glowing in the darkness evoke a sense of dread, there's something equally menacing about the mechanical mutant we received here. He doesn't come off as slow and lumbering in his depictions either. There's a real chaotic urgency to his movements, like he's living on borrowed time. I really dig it. Blaster features a ton of additional articulation when compared to other Throwbots. Whether or not he can make use of it, though, comes down to his Achilles ankles. Even though I admire the articulation here, the lack of friction in this joint severely limits the variety of poses possible. Still, Blaster is unique, and I think he passes muster. His discs depict the origin of the newcomers, mutated via radiant energy from the meteor's impact. Distinctively, Blaster includes discs in two different colors, yellow and black. I didn't touch on this last time, but this was actually standard practice for the original 8. Each Throwbot included one of their own discs and one of another character's. If you bought Scuba, you got a disc for Turbo. If you bought Turbo, you got a disc for Torch, and so on. Clever. Some might say insidious marketing within the toys themselves. However, in Blaster's case, both of these discs belong to him. Though there's still something more we can do with this toy. If you were lucky enough to own all three of these guys back in the day, you could combine them to construct Dynamo. A towering, mutated behemoth, Dynamo makes for a curious combiner model for a number of reasons. Firstly, while Dynamo requires complete disassembly of Flare and Spark, only partial disassembly is required for Blaster. Indeed, from the waist down, Blaster is recycled wholesale, save for the addition of Flare's tail. At first, my impression was that this was just lazy design work. However, upon actually building the thing, I've got to say that Dynamo is a really unique experience. The way that the instructions have you disassemble certain parts of Blaster, only to rejoin them later with bulk from the other two, really made this model feel like a combination of these figures, rather than a simple amalgamation of their parts, a la Robotops or Ultra Rex. It almost seems like forethought was put into this when designing Blaster. I mean, to me, it feels like Blaster was designed with Dynamo in mind. The true lightbulb moment occurred during construction, when I realized that while Blaster and Spark appeared to have the same energy zapper weapon, they were actually wielding opposite molds, allowing them both to be utilized better in the combiner model. Fantastic design. Great care was evidently taken in creating a combiner model with a cohesive color scheme. Would that it not for these two purple elements, you'd hardly think Spark contributed much of anything to this fusion. Yet, upon examining the paltry leftovers, Dynamo used nearly every part of the Buffalo. The sole grievance I have for the figure comes hand in hand with one of its strengths. By reusing so much of Blaster's design, we're once again cursed with ankles that have no friction. Adding so much weight to Dynamo's upper body only exacerbates the issue, and part of me wonders if the gears from Spark and Flare could have been put to better use in the feet. Still, Dynamo is surely one of the most ambitious mutant Slizer designs, and this concept of combining Throwbot pieces into new eccentric mocks is still going strong even to this day. Some of these models are the hilarious stuff of nightmares, whereas others are quite true to form. I built Thermite here because I was so impressed with it. Inspiring stuff. My hat's off to all the builders that are keeping this theme alive. Getting back on track, we have but one Throwbot to go. Enter the champion. 8520 is the final Throwbot in the collection, and just like those original 8, this one has 2 names. Millennium, or Millennia depending on the region, is the only Throwbot with a true alternate build. One so heavily promoted that there sometimes seems to be some confusion over which is the main one. Forming either a small gold and gray robot on a big red motorcycle or a towering mega robot with immense power, Millennium provides enough pieces and instructions for either build. Of the two, the motorcycle model best fits the description of a main build, as it doesn't leave parts left over like the other build does. However, nearly every bit of promotional material, from magazines to the instruction booklet itself, insists that I've got this backwards. So let's look at the Mega Robot first. Standing tall on his 2 tire-laden feet, Millennium has no trouble staying upright. With no need to tread lightly, he also features some interesting additional points of articulation when compared to his Throwbot brethren, including a neck tilt and ab crunch. I think the dark gray, black, red, and gold color scheme was a great choice here. Even though it doesn't pop as well as something more vibrant, it's a real standout in the Throwbot line. Truth be told though, I'm not a huge fan of this build. Besides leaving a wealth of pieces left over, this Mega Robot sports some awkward proportions. Not to mention the typical Throwbot strangeness that has come to be expected. More than anything though, building this model denies you from building the next model, and that is the real crime. Fitting the more traditional description of a main build is this awesome cycle and rider combo. Utilizing some stickered elements to bring out even more detail, this model is admittedly more of a Technic build than a Throwbot build. Still, it's hard to argue with the results. In this form, Millennium takes on the shape of a more standard-sized Throwbot, while still retaining some regality with these swooping shoulders. Without the rider, the bike resembles many of those Technic models from the early 2000s. Solid construction and engineering throughout, including working steering. There's even a place to store throwing discs along the back. Speaking of which, here we finally see the coveted 8-pip discs. Like all Throwbots, Millennium includes 2, one of which featuring the same metallic sheen as his head. This is actually a tan piece that has been painted gold, and given the wear and tear on Millennium's face, I think it's a similar scenario there. This disc portrays Millennium riding down the streets of Slizer City, lobbing a disc at the observer. I almost wish it featured printing on that disc as well, a Maguma style. The other disc features planet Slizer, prior to the meteor impact, interestingly enough. Apparently, this one also serves as Judge's final disc, in lieu of a 7-pip variant. No, really. The weirdness never stops. All told, Millennium is another strong outing in this final wave of Throwbot releases. While we only received a dozen sets in the end, these latter 4 all represent the growing potential behind LEGO construction at the time. Titan models like Blaster make me yearn for a universe where Throwbots continued for a few more years. But ultimately, I have to admit that the line probably ended exactly where it should have. Barring a short-lived detour in 2000, Throwbots served as a necessary stepping stone on the way to Matanui. While in retrospect, many of its offerings essentially appear to be evolutionary dead ends, the series was still home to diverse and Y2 cool for school designs. In closing, let's take a look at one more awesome combiner model featuring the original sets. Hiker Mike, designed by Bethany Heck, was included in the September-October 1999 issue of LEGO Mania magazine, along with instructions. This fun combiner model embodies the kooky aesthetics of Slizer design, and evidently is still a source of pride for its creator even to this day. Rightfully so, I might add. The year 2000 was a busy time for the LEGO Group. In addition to wrapping up the Throwbots line, there was a new Technic series ready to fill the void. But that's another tale for another time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I've been your host, RR Slugger, and I'll see you next time for another video.
And after play we pulled away, protecting us from Y2K.